Alright, so welcome back. So normally we would just turn you loose in the lab at this point. We'd just say, hey, go nuts. But really you need a little bit more experience. So we're going to do a little bit of prep work. So we're just going to call it the ScoreKeeper Lab Prep. And then we'll turn you loose in the lab. So let's just go ahead and do this little project. It's just going to be a simple little thing in Objective-C. So go and open up Xcode and say File, New Project. Go ahead and select Single View Application. Give it a name of just like ScoreKeeper Prep. That'll be a fine name. And then the important thing is to change it to Objective-C for this project. Devices, iPhone is fine. We're going to put very little work into the storyboard. Save it wherever you like, and then let's go and open up the main storyboard. And what I'm going to do here on this main storyboard, like I said, I'm going to do as little work as possible. I'm just going to prepare it for iPhone in portrait. And I'm going to cheat so badly it's not even funny. I'm going to not even add any constraints. I just want a button. So I'm just going to search for button and drag it on here. And then I also want a text field. So I'm just going to type the word field, drag it on here. And then I also want a text view. And so I'm going to add it onto here. And so if you kind of remember ScoreKeeper, this was kind of what each column looked like. There was kind of a button. Admittedly, there was one button for everybody, a field, and then a view. So those are fine. I'm just going to leave those connections just like that. What I want to do, though, is I want to add an action on the button. You can see that by default, it brought me into the interface file. I actually am just going to put it in the .h file just because that's how I like to do it personally. And I'm going to bring over an action on the button. So I'm going to switch that to say action. And then I'm just going to say pressed button. I was going to say pressed enter round, but it doesn't really matter. The text field, I don't really care what you call it. I'll call it, I don't know, text field. It's kind of hard to say, but it makes sense. And then on the text view, I'll just call it text view. So really, I just wanted a simple little application that gave me these three components so that I could play with some code things. So now I'm going to go over into my viewcontroller.m file and clean it up a little bit. So right now, it's got an implementation area and an interface. The interface is for like private functions and things like that. Don't really need it this time. Did receive memory warning. Don't really need that. Here's my IB action, so that's good. And then in viewDidLoad, I'll go ahead and clear the text on the text view right here. So I'll just say .text, and I'll set it to the empty string, remembering in Objective-C that it needs this @ symbol at the front. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go in, and we're just going to make things happen on the button press. Go ahead and run it on some iPhone and make sure it's working. So here I ran it on an iPhone 4, and it looks like it's working fine. So I can type things in here, and I can click the button, but not much happens yet. What I'd like to happen whenever I click on the button is I'd like to add that text into the text view, and I'd also like to get rid of the keyboard. So the first thing I want to show is if we wanted to get the string out of the text field, so I'll just call it text in text field. The syntax is exactly what you'd expect. It's the text field .text. And then if we wanted to add that, like append it to the bottom of the text view, there's a bunch of ways to do it. The way that I'm going to do it is I'm just going to set the text, and I'm going to use a string formatter. There's a bunch of ways to do this. So I'm going to say string with format, then let it autocomplete. And my format is going to be a %@ \n %@. So I know this looks a little gibberishy to you here. I'll let it take the whole page. But %@ means print an object. \n means new line. And %@ means print an object. So we're just going to do two things. We're going to do whatever the text was before, and then we're going to add to it the text in the text field. So with this, every time I press the button, it's going to take the text in the text field and add it to the text view. The keyboard might be in my way in the iPhone that I picked. We'll see. So if I said RRR, you can see it adds that. If I say RRRGGG, it adds that. And then if I add another one, it's going to not be visible because my keyboard's in the way. So there's a lot of things that I need to fix. Let's go ahead and start by making the keyboard go away. I actually had planned to do this later, but I'll do it right now. And the way you can do that is you can say self.view, so it says everybody in the view, end editing. You pass a bool. I love this. This is my favorite part of Objective-C. Bools in Objective-C are not true and false. They are yes and no. That's like, I don't know, that's a very lovable part of Objective-C. So if I do this, it'll make the keyboard go away, and now it'll be a little easier to see. You could also do things like clearing off the text that was in there, just so that you can actually start fresh every time. If you wanted to do that, that's pretty easy. You could just say self.test text field.text, wipe yourself out, and that will actually get rid of it each time as well. In fact, there's a lot of little things you could do. If you think about what's going on here, it's actually adding a new line at the start because it's adding it every time, even when there was nothing in the text field. And if you wanted to fix that, I mean, that's easy. You could just say if the self.textView text has a length that's greater than 0, then we'll do what we've been doing. But if it's not, then we'll do it slightly different. So I know that you're new to Objective-C, but I mean, it's pretty easy to see how these things work. So if it's greater than 0, then do it this way. If it's not, let's just print the text in the text field as the only thing, right? In fact, we can do that a lot shorter. We'll just do it like that. And so if there was something there, use it. If not, just set it to this. Since my text field is white and my text view is white, it's hard to see that there was a new line, but this was a little better implementation. So this is most of what I wanted to show you, just how do you append something to the end. I'd say the only thing that I might want to do better is I might want to actually convert it to a number. And so if you wanted to convert it to an int, so this would be like value in text field, this is equal to whatever the text in the text field int value is. And so there's a lot of ways to do conversions, but there's, I'll just convert it in a pretty simple way. And then the only thing that you'd have to do different is instead of saying like %at, you would say %d, and then of course you would take the value from the text field. So this just shows how do you convert a string to an int. So now I can put in like 44 and hit enter, and it's there. If I put in 55, it just appends it onto there. And note that if you put in a number, it'll just show up as 0. By the way, here I'm using the keyboard that's in line. If I do a Command-Shift-K, then I can use my actual keyboard that's actually on my Mac. So it's way easier to type if I do it that way. So some of the things that you're going to need to do in the ScoreKeeper app are things like these. Obviously, you're printing a total and not just the number. But hopefully these kind of show you some of the skills that you'll need to prepare for that lab. And I'll go ahead and use the next video to more formally introduce that lab and provide a link. So that's it for this little prep guy. You can see that we just wanted to show you some code. This was actually so short that I don't care if you turn it in or not. So you're not required to turn this in. It was just to help you out for the lab. All right, see you next time when we talk about the lab requirements.